Welcome back. It's Mary with the Painted Peach, and today we are in the Stencil Sunday playlist collaboration with my friend Christy from Funky Junk Inspiration. You can check us out every first Sunday of the month, and the link is in my description. Let's get started. We're going to be using these three colors mainly for the project. I'm also going to use a red and a gold and a brown. So we're going to start out with this first color, and we're going to cover the whole surface with this color, and I'll end up doing 2 coats of this and drying them in between before I move on to the next step. Okay, we have done 2 coats and we have dried it completely, and I am going to get a wax melt. This is a soy wax melt, and we are going to take it and we are going to go over the whole board, left to right, up and down, and crisscross. I'm going to do like swirling motions to begin with, and then I'm going to do like side to side. I'm doing that just so I can get it all over the board, and I like it when I use the wax, fumbling over my words. When I use the wax like this, I want the chippy look to be very authentic. So typically chippy is just paint chipping off from layers and layers of years of paint, so I want it to be everywhere. So I am adding it pretty much in all directions. So once I do that, we are then going to take our white paint, our white chalk paint, and we're going to go over the whole thing again with the white paint. Now that we have that done and it's all dried, I'm going to take a paper towel and I'm just going to wipe over the top and the sides to see what I can just wipe off with the paper towel. Now, if you were to do this with wax, your paint would wipe right off. But with the, not wax, with like petroleum jelly or chapstick. But since you're doing this with wax, it's a little bit harder for you to get it off. So it does come off the edges pretty good. I'll show you that in a second. But you're going to have to either use a finger sander or sanding sponge or something like that. Or you can use a scraper like I'm going to do. I'm going to use this spatula from Cricut, and I'm just going to lightly go over and scrape off the paint in the areas that I want it to be chippy. I'm going to do this from side to side, up and down, diagonally, just like I did the wax, and I'm going to get it as chippy as I would like it. I also go in with a palette knife and do the same thing. All right, you've seen me touching up a few areas. I didn't really want it as strong as it went all the way down to the wood. So I just took my white paintbrush and went back and tapped over that. Now that it is how I want it, I am going to pull out my stencil. My stencil I'm using today is from Farmhouse Stencil Shop. I will link her YouTube channel in my description. She is here on YouTube and over on Facebook, and she creates her own stencils. You should really check them out. They are awesome. So I'm going to be using this willow tree, this weeping willow tree, and we are going to make ourselves a cute little primitive sign using this stencil. I am going to be using antique green for our tree, and then I'll be using a raw umber for our tree trunk. This green ends up being a little bit runny, so I end up having to do a couple coats of that. I will go ahead and speed up through the stenciling portion. I do end up doing some dabbing motions instead of circles because this green is very runny, but usually I do onloading, offloading onto a paper towel like I'm doing here, and then I do swirling motions onto the stencil, and that's how I typically do it. But with this one, you see it's kind of runny. I don't want it to run under the stencil, so I start doing a dabbing motion. All right, now we're going to pull our stencil up, and here is our tree. I'm going to dry it really well, and then you will see me put the stencil back down. As you can see, the trunk really didn't go completely all the way through in that one area, so I lay it back down and go over it again. So here it is. I'm laying it down. We're going to get that little spot there once I line it up, and we're going to get the raw umber and just go over that area. and voila. But you do see right there on each side of the tree, I got a little bit of excess paint from the back of the stencil. I don't really care because I think it made it look a little bit more rustic, primitive. So I'm adding a little bit of white paint anyway. I don't get the whole thing covered up, but I leave it because I think it looks pretty good. I also take a little thin liner brush and get some green and connect the bridge areas. The bridges are where the stencil actually has to have a little bit of a space there to connect each thing. So you can just connect those lines once you pull the stencil up. I'm also adding a little bit of green in certain areas where the leaves didn't take as well. You don't have to do all of this, but it's something I enjoy adding a little bit of detail to. Sometimes I also do just the stencil and then just add more painted details to it, and you can do that as well. Her stencils are pretty detailed and I enjoy using them as is. Here I decide that I want my trunk to be a little bit darker brown, and then I go in on the leaves area and I add the brown for the branches also. Now I'm just taking my pencil and I'm going to draw out a design around the edges of the surface. That's going to frame out my weeping willow tree. And I'm just going to do this in pencil first so that I don't mess up. Then I'm going to go in with my liner brush and some paint and create the design with some green and brown paint. It doesn't end up being perfect. I don't have all my correct tools with me and all of that. I'm also doing some stars, little primitive stars and hearts on the sides, and I'm going to paint those in with some gold and some red and make it really primitive. The rest of this I'm going to speed up for you and let you see that, since it's really not about stenciling, it's more about painting. And I'm going to also add at the end some grunging up with some dark wax, and I'll use some Kills dark sealing wax for that. And so I'll leave you to watch this, and then I'll see you at the final reveal. So now it is time for the final reveal. Here is our primitive weeping willow sign. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope that you will check us out next time on the first Sunday of the month. I'd like to thank my co-host, Christy from Funky Junk Inspiration, and all the other creatives that are joining us today. You can find them in my description in the link to the playlist. I'll see you next time, and until then, stay peachy.